Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amor de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happy Talks. My name is Dr. Alice, and this is Donovan. And today I have a very special guest, my good friend from back in college, who's up to such grandiose, amazing things. I'm excited to have her, Megan Taylor Morrison. She is a business coach, Amazon best-selling author, and world-traveling dancer. Please welcome Megan. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you and Donovan.
Yes, excellent. Well, yeah, it's been quite, so just a little backstory for our viewers is that Megan and I actually taught dance together back in our university, in our undergrad at University of Puget Sound. I was very inactive in dance after college, but she just like propelled off with it and made a whole life and career out of it, which is pretty awesome and exciting. And and she's just released this new book called Dance Adventures. I'm excited to have her share about it. But Megan, why don't you start by just sharing a little about your story of how you became a business coach, entrepreneur, dance traveling adventurer, like all of that. So, because I need to catch up too, and I don't know the whole story. Go ahead and share.
Before I share more about me, I just have to say that for those of you who are watching, Alice, as the seasoned Lindy Hopper in college, took lead. She was the lead in our classes, and it was so wonderful. Like we got to teach these awesome classes together for I think 2 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We did choreography and we did performancing.
Oh yeah, our performances, they're so cute.
Horrible.
They were. I know. I'm sure they're lurking on YouTube somewhere. I have to dig them up. Yeah.
Now I want to go find them. But
now I know I have to go dig them out too.
So a little bit about my story. Let's see. You graduated the year before I did. Then I graduated in 2008. Mm-hmm. And for about 10 years, I did a whole bunch of things. I was dancing. I was a cheesemonger. I went and volunteered in Africa for a while, worked for the World Wildlife Fund in Madagascar. And all along the way, I had this sense that I really wanted to start a business, but I was terrified. Mm-hmm. And I went to a therapist, and the therapist was like, you don't have any trauma. There's nothing that we need to resolve here. I think you're just afraid of starting a business. I went to a consultant, and the consultant told me what to do and gave me spreadsheets and things, but I still couldn't do it because there was like the fear aspect that was holding me back. Mm-hmm. And then I finally met a coach and hired, not her, but a different coach. Mm-hmm. Another story. And that was really the professional that I needed to finally launch my first business. And I did. Dance Adventures was the name of the first business. It was a dance travel company that did cultural immersion through the arts in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Brazil, and the Dominican Republic. And what was cool is I not only started my first business, but I was having all of these breakthroughs with my relationships and my self-respect and self-care and my confidence. So I decided that I really wanted to also get certified as a coach. And I went and got certified as a coach and then started my own coaching practice. And now I coach about 80% of the time. And then 20% of the time I'm dancing, writing books about dancing, and otherwise traveling to dance.
That's pretty incredible and an amazing life to live, to really turn just like a hobby, passion, love into a career, and still creating like two businesses that kind of feed into each other in a way.
Yeah.
So you just released this book, Dance Adventures. What makes it special?
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Dance Adventures, true stories about dancing abroad. The things that ended up making it special were not the things that I anticipated in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. So in the very beginning, I closed my dance travel company, and I really wanted some way to carry on this mission. And this idea that cultural immersion through dance can change our lives. It can give us a glimpse into other cultures. It can support us in learning about ourselves and also learning about the world. So when I first started, I figured that the thing that made it special would be these stories. And I reached out to my network of people who I knew had traveled and danced and had amazing experiences. And it was shaping up to be one thing. And then with the death of George Floyd, I had this terrible slash wonderful realization around my white privilege, and that this book was primarily full of stories from white people. And I mean, whitewashing is such an issue in the journalism industry and the dance industry that I just didn't want the book to be part of the problem. I saw an opportunity to say, hey, I want to be part of the solution, and so this book will be part of the solution. And reached out to my network, got all these additional amazing authors that had awesome stories to tell from all different backgrounds. And now the book really is this celebration of how dance, the power of dance is so ubiquitous. And anyone, whether you're a Nigerian going to dance in Hungary, which is one of the stories in the book, or Swedish going to dance in Mozambique, or American going to dance in Indonesia, it can all change you. It doesn't matter where you're from or what your background is.
It's really interesting. Like, dance is not something that has intersected with my life much, but I would be curious to know what kind of stories they have, right? Like, for me, it's hard. It's hard because I don't have any experience with it. It's not something I touch. So you're talking about, people from different places kind of coming together and connecting, but like, what does that look like? What do these stories kind of look like? Can you flesh out a little bit of one of them?
Yeah. Well, the book's divided into 4 sections, just to give you an idea of how it all looks. And the first one is Roots, which is all about people that go to a country that's connected to their heritage or to their family in some way, and they learn about themselves that way. The second one is Building Community. The third is Unexpected Experiences. And the fourth is Personal Development. So we take some major themes, and then some of the storylines would be breakdancing guy goes to Morocco, is just out dancing in a Medina because that's what dancers do. And these 2 guys come up and they're like, oh, are you a breakdancer? And they're communicating in, broken English because he doesn't speak Arabic and they speak a little English. And he figures out that they might be breakdancers and he's going to meet them later. And they take him out into this world of breakdancing in Morocco. They go and dance in a real life oasis. They go there's a camel parking next to the place where they practice. It's really this way of experiencing the culture that he never could have had otherwise. There's also a story, one of the most moving stories in the first section of the book. A woman who teaches West African dance at UC Riverside goes on a professional development grant to Senegal. She's an African American. She goes to Senegal. And her whole story is set against her visit to Gorée Island, which was the largest slave trading post in West Africa, and going out there and talking about wow, I'm thinking about this dance I learned, Menjani, which is all about young women coming of age. And she's just imagining these young girls going through the door of no return to leave for the United States. And did they ever dance it? Who among them would have been, selected to dance it? And she really talks about West African dance and in the frame of this horrific thing that happened so long ago. So each of the stories is infused with a really personal aspect from the author, but also history, geography, demographics. You'll learn about the wealth disparity in Angola, and you'll learn about some dance styles you've never even heard of in Indonesia that are based in Buddhism. They're really educational.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really cool. That helps me understand more of the structure of the book, and it sounds like it's really clearly blocked out into these different themes as you were mentioning, and also it's just really interconnected and has a bunch of different attributes, right? It doesn't sound like the type of thing that you have to have danced a bunch to get a lot of value out of and to really enjoy. And that's kind of what I wanted to parse out. It sounds great.
Yeah. And I hope that it gets used in anthropology classes and performance classes and just liberal arts classes, because you're right. You really don't have to be a dancer to like the book. If you like reading about travel and adventures, you'd probably like reading the book.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious what your thoughts are. Dance, in my perspective, is just a beautiful self-expression for people. And it's a way, to deal with hardships and hard times or bring community together. And I think it really ties into our theme of our show of happiness. So I'd be curious on your thoughts of how dance and happiness segue together.
I wish I could cite some studies because I know they're out there, but But Mia, do you know of any studies, Alice?
I don't know. I'm sure there are. I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, we as humans, we're
Mhm.
body, mind, spirit, right? And I think in today's society, we often think of ourselves as mind and a
Yeah.
brain.
Mhm.
And we forget that the body is so key to our happiness. Like more messages go from our bodies to our minds than from our minds to our bodies. And so when we can move and bounce and skip or whatever, it's going to send messages to our brain, and probably the kind of messages we want our brain to have, especially in a world right now where we're bombarded by bad news constantly. So, for me, self-expression is a human right and a human need.
Yeah.
And play and connecting with others. And if dance is one way to do that. It's not the way everybody does it, but I think it's a way that if you're just willing to try it and
Mhm.
go out and do it, like you can at least like tap into it. Alice.
Of course I know. But what about those non-dancers that are watching the show? It's like, and they're like feeling, maybe like Donovan, maybe you could speak for the non-dancers out there. Maybe there's a sense of intimidation or fear around looking awkward or being weird about it. So what are your thoughts to those viewers?
Yeah. I always like to think about my time in the Dominican Republic. I lived there for 2 years and led retreats there, including dance retreats. And one of the things that struck me most is that everyone I met there danced and sang, even if they were really bad at it.
Mm.
And they enjoyed it. They loved it. So I like to take people there because even if they get in their heads, even if they're embarrassed, you don't have to be good. And it's just about being present with people.
Mm.
So the other thing too is there's this stereotype about dance being hard.
Mhm.
And that sort of forgets about how many different types of dances there are out there.
Right.
And a dance like a basic bachata step, which is just like a 1, 2, 3, pop, 1, 2, 3. It's very basic. Or a merengue, which is literally just stepping. Like you can just set people loose on a dance floor that have never danced, and they're gonna pick up merengue because if they can walk, they can merengue. So I think that there is an accessible dance style out there for everyone. And I'm curious, Donovan, have you had any experiences with dance?
Yes. My grandma used to take me ballroom dancing when I was 5, maybe.
Oh, cute. That's so cute.
Adorable.
Beyond that, though, not really, not anything. I guess formal is not the right word based on what you just said, but not anything that I would consider anything beyond just like a little, getting into the groove. No,
Look what
real dance.
happened. Look what happened when you did that. You smiled.
Yeah, no, so for me personally, I don't have a lot of experience with dance, but it is something that I can see the value in, right? And I just happen to have not chosen to invest in that as one of my like physical outlets. I happen to, well, in the times when it was allowed, play a lot of soccer, and that's what took a lot of my physical like energy and space. I don't mind dancing. It's just that I've never took the time to invest in it as a skill. And that's kind of the way that I look at it, is like, if it happens to appeal to someone, right, you could choose to invest in it as a skill. And like you were saying, at the right level, right? There's probably something you can find in soccer as a parallel. Like, you're probably not going to want to go play in an ultra competitive league to start out to try it. But if you just go kick a ball around with some friends, like that's the same type of thing. Like, finding the right level for your skill or your interest makes sense. So I dance every once in a while, but not anything that, is publicly viewable.
Yeah, it makes me think of too, I've seen it in Italy and in Greece and in other countries, there are circle dances at a lot of community events where everybody just holds hands and goes in a circle. And then they go in towards the circle and then they go out towards the circle. And it's just about connecting with people. And it's crazy because I've been a part of it, and I've also led it in like large public forums where people weren't dancers, and without fail people are smiling, they're laughing, they feel more connected to each other. There's just something about that structured form of play that's really magic.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, and this applies to a lot of other things besides just dance, but I'm sure it's true in dance, finding the right group of people, right? As long as you're in a group where it's not like, hey, we're practicing for competition, like, hey, this is pretty serious. Other than that, for the most part, most of the time, people are going to be fairly open and inviting, and okay with whatever. I don't know, since I'm not in dance, I could be completely off the mark, but that seems to be generally true.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Something else came to mind as you were saying that. Oh, what was it? I forgot. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. What came to my mind when Donovan was talking about that is like, I feel like most people, I can't speak for everyone out there, have been in a situation, whether it was like a party, maybe it was prom, like, where most people are not like trained in formal dance, but they're like grooving and moving and smiling. And that's kind of part of the joy. It's like, you don't have to be formally trained. You could just like feel the beat, move however you want, and just let go of the fear of looking awkward or weird and just enjoying your time, because that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
You've been to a party, right, Donovan?
But I didn't dance at the party.
You did dance.
You come to one of our parties, you're gonna dance.
I know. We'll get you to dance.
That's not my go-to party trick, okay?
That's not your go-to
I
party.
have other things that I can do if I have to be the center of attention, but I try not to be.
Donovan, do you have a signature dance move?
No. I mean, okay, so wait. I probably do, but I probably don't know what it is until I'm doing it, right? Like off the top of my head, it's not like, oh yeah, this is my go-to. But if you had footage of every time I've ever danced in my life, I bet there is something that it's like, oh, you just do this thing every single time.
I love it. Yeah, some people just like, they kind of groove. Other people like really, they get into it. There's so many different styles.
Definitely. Yeah. Another thing, I do see the value of just movement in general. Like Donovan was saying about soccer, is just like moving your body is so important. But I think for me, as someone who exercise regularly, and I've done dance, I haven't been lately because of COVID, but as a dancer, it's just like it goes, for me, it's like that physicality element. It is exercise in itself, so there's that benefit. But what I think is different, that it's like exercise plus the self-expression, and like, because you're in alignment with the music, and that just like adds like this different element. I mean, I guess you could do that in, like, I've done kickboxing classes where it's like you punch to the beat too, but I feel like it ramps it up. It brings a different level of, blend of self-expression with the physicalness. Yeah.
For me, it's the closest thing to meditation that isn't meditation, because there's a certain, and of course, this was somewhat true when I started dancing. Oh, I remember what I was going to say before. This is somewhat true when I started dancing, and it became more true as I achieved a level of expertise and, achieved unconscious competence. But you can just think about the music, think about the connection with your partner, and it really is presence, like pure joyous presence that I think it's hard to achieve any other way. For me, I know other people do it. The thing I was going to say before was that there are several authors in the book that are not dancers. And I think that that's another cool aspect of it is, for instance, the woman who went to Cuba, she's a travel writer, and she took a few dance classes back in the day. But she writes about how dance was such a part of Cuban culture, and how people would grab her and her mom and dance with them, and how it really brought them into this experience of Cuban life in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise been. So I think that it goes back to what we were saying about, do you need to be good at dancing, or, what if you're not a dancer? And Donovan, I think you're right. It depends on who you're with, because you can have these beautiful experiences as long as people are welcoming and saying yes and inviting you in via dance.
That made me think of a question around, it sounds like you've had a fair bit of travel. Do you see differences in attitudes towards dance, like between different places, or is it more the same than different?
It depends on where. And I would say that it can be quite different. So the places that popped into my mind first were Lindy Hop communities in the United States, and then the dance scene in the Dominican Republic, and then the dance scene in Guinea, West Africa. And the dance styles are all very different, right? Like, I think Lindy Hop primarily emotes joy. And there's both the community aspect, but there is also still somewhat a hierarchy in a lot of scenes where you're communing most with the people that are similar to your level, versus in a place like the Dominican Republic, I see more people, like there's not so much a level thing as people melding with and dancing with other people. And then in Guinea, West Africa, it's the same. Like, I mean, it's not the same, but it's similar, where children are hearing music and dancing from the time they're little. And it's primarily solo dancing, not partner dancing. And it's, yes, joy, also ferocity, also ecstasy. Like there's so many different things that they express. So, and it's almost informal. So in the United States, dance is typically quite structured. Like you'll go to a place to dance. It doesn't just erupt. And believe it or not, in places like the Dominican Republic and Guinea, it does. Like, you know, you can walk up to someone and be singing a traditional rhythm in Guinea and they'll start dancing. And then you're like, am I in a musical? I don't know what's happening. But yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
I forgot. That's actually one of my top fantasies of just like being in a random place and then like a song comes on and just everyone breaks out into song and dance. It's like my ultimate fantasy, and they just somehow, like the movies, know the choreography. Like, yeah,
that's, I mean, I'm not saying that happens every day in West Africa, but in Guinea, like it did happen to me a few times, and everybody does know the songs and does know the dances because they're traditional songs and dances.
Oh wow, that's so awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Really.
Well, I think I'm going to switch our topic a little bit and ask a little bit more around. So you kind of wrote that book, got it together, compiled it. I'd be curious about your process of actually getting, you know, attention to it or getting people to read it or look at it, because I think a lot of people spend time making projects that they're passionate about and then don't get the eyeballs on it. So I'd be curious what your process was there.
Yeah. Luckily, this is where my background in business coaching comes in, and just I've gotten really comfortable with visibility because of building a business and especially building a personal brand. And I think that when you're creating a book, one, you got to be proud of it, right? So I think I would have been much less inspired to shout it from the rooftops if I didn't really feel connected to the book and proud of the book and love, you know, I love the cover of the book. And people typically don't make asks. And that's one thing that, Alice, I know you know, because it's a real coaching concept. Like, what do we ask for and how do we ask for it? And can we get out of our own way and say, you know, maybe I'm going to ask and some people aren't going to respond well, and I'll ask and some people will respond well. And I encountered both as I was promoting my book. Really, I based my book promotion off of the book Ask Gary Vee. And he talks about how, have you read that? Have either of you read that?
I've read Crush It and Crushing It. So I know Gary Vee well, but yeah.
He's a ball of energy.
Yeah, well, I know. I follow him on social media.
So he writes about how when he was releasing, I think he said every time he releases a book, he locks himself in a hotel room for 2 days and just sends out requests and requests around people buying it. And so I was like, all right, this is incredibly confronting and uncomfortable, but there's no reason I can't also do that. So I set I had my Amazon pre-launch thing. And then the day that it went live, I sat in a room for like 10 hours and just sent out message after message to people, all of my Facebook friends, even if I hadn't spoken to them in years, or I wasn't even sure if we'd met. I sent it out to family, to other friends, to whatever, just asking them to buy the book. And it did become, it was number 1 in dance, number 3 in travel, and like top 10 in I think 5 or 6 other categories. So that made a difference. And then the other interesting thing about book promotion is that I hired this super expensive PR company because I wanted help promoting my book, but also because I kind of wanted to see if I could outcompete them.
Yeah.
So, and I did handily.
Wow.
Yeah. So, part of it was making asks. Like I reached out to NPR and was like, hey, here's my book. I'll send you a copy. And they did an interview with me. Part of it was, creating a really compelling story and pitching to magazines and saying, hey, this is my expertise. Can I write a guest blog post for you or a guest post for your magazine or whatever? And people were receptive to that. I reached out to podcasts and, I didn't have to do all that work, But I think when you really believe in your message, you want to know that you're getting this thing out there and that people are going to read it and that their lives could be changed by it, or it could just bring them a little joy right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious what questions you have after hearing that overview.
Well, actually, we might have to go back in your journey a little bit, but I think probably the most common problem people will run into is if they've created something, having a lot more fear or hesitation around doing some of the things that it sound like wasn't that hard for you at this point. So we might have to, walk it back to when it was difficult. But what do you think made it so that you were able to, hey, you know what, I'm going to go make all these asks. I'm going to send it to NPR. I'm going to do all these things, when I think that's the point where a lot of people would get stuck. They would have all the ideas and go, I don't want to get rejected. I don't want to make my friends mad. I don't want to, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I'll rewind to an earlier part of my story. And I'll also say that our fear never goes away. Like, I still had those like cringeworthy moments. And eventually I just decided, I was like, well, I'm never going to hit my goals if I don't do this. And so I'm actually going to put my commitment ahead of my fear and just make the ask. And then, you know what, if 300 people unfriend me on Facebook, like, oh, well, like, I don't think I'd unfriend someone for
sending a book.
Yeah, for asking me to buy their book. Like, I probably didn't want them as a friend anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were still cringeworthy moments. And I like to say that because just to normalize it. And we never really get over it. We just change our relationship to the fear. When I look back, 10 years, like I spent 10 years crippled by my fear. And it was debilitating. And the only reason I made a change is because I'd gotten to the point where I was having anxiety attacks every day from like knowing something was on my heart and knowing I was meant to do something, but not going for it. And I was depressed and I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. And I would call my mom at 3 p.m. every afternoon crying. And I was just stuck because it wasn't bad enough for me to change. And I don't know how bad it would have had to get, to be honest, because it was pretty fucking bad. And what I tell people now, since I work primarily with people that are starting businesses or doing new things or really looking at their next level of success, is whatever support you think you need, triple it and then see how you do. Like, when I started my business, I didn't just need a business coach. I needed a life coach. I needed a marketing coach. I needed peers of entrepreneurs. Like, I'd never been an entrepreneur. I didn't know other entrepreneurs. So it really took a lot of time to build up the support network that worked for me. And if you're not, I was just having a conversation earlier with someone about fear and how if we don't acknowledge it first and foremost, and have compassion for it, like, we're never going to get through it. So some people like to like crack the whip on themselves or, berate themselves for having fear and not doing the thing. And I actually have it that like our fear is like a puppy dog. And if we just beat the shit out of the puppy dog when we're feeling scared, like, it's just going to make things worse.
Yeah.
That's a little graphic, but I think you understand where I'm going here. So please don't let that be my quote on if you beat the puppy dog. A puppy dog, it's gonna make things worse. So I think that part of it is like AAA is what I always say, like the awareness, like, here's the fear. I feel the fear. I'm with the fear. I'm not trying to push it down. Like, it has something to say. Say it. And then the appreciation, oh, wow, I really get that fear is trying to take care of me. I get that it's normal and natural. I get that it's ultimately something that's trying to serve me in my highest self, but is just getting in the way. And then the final A is alignment. Like, okay, am I going to align with my fear, or am I going to align with something else? My vision for my future, my commitments, my belief in this book, and then moving from that space. But it's a process, and even just learning to be with our fear and hold it with compassion takes time and often coaching. Is that what we were looking for, Donovan?
Yeah, definitely. I think that answers the approach from a number of directions, right? Because I think when people think about maybe putting a project out, one of the natural things is like, well, how do I just get over it? Just get over it and do it.
That's true.
And, there's a number of things that you have to figure out, right? I heard the pieces I heard were a vision or a purpose, like a reason that you wanted to do it, confidence because you had created something that you actually really wanted to share, experience kind of with your relationship of fear and changing the way that you kind of looked at it as a natural part of the process and something to work with or through as opposed to just crush down and avoid. And the other piece of kind of recognizing the actual consequences of things not going the way you wanted, which is, maybe you lose a few Facebook friends that you weren't really friends with anyway. So no, I think that answers it perfectly. It gives a whole bunch of different pieces to look at or angles to approach if someone is feeling a little bit nervous about like, oh, I made this thing, but I don't know about promoting it or getting eyes on it.
Yeah. And some people don't even recognize that that's the fear, right? So even having the awareness like, oh my God, it's fear. There it is it can be a huge aha moment for people. But yeah, it stops a lot of people. And the whole have your vision, have your why, that never worked for me. And maybe I'm just more selfish than other people. Like, I don't know. But even though I was like, oh, I can totally help people through this project. And I mean, it's not, it's accurate to say that my first company changed people's lives dramatically. I know it did. I saw it happen and I saw what happened when they came home. But even though I knew that from the beginning, I couldn't make any changes until I really sat with the fear and learned to face it and just accepted it as part of the process.
Yeah, that's really, I really resonate with that as a fellow entrepreneur. I get confronted by fear all the time. And kind of the same thing in my experience is that, like, as an entrepreneur or business owner, you have to get over the fear of selling yourself because that's like, you're a business owner, you sell something. So it just like is part of the game. But I always had like this thing about, oh, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to like be salesy. It's just like, and that was stopping me from really putting myself out there. And I know I'm amazing at what I do. I'm amazing at my job. I make a big difference for people in their lives. And if I don't put myself out there, people might be like, oh yeah, you're pushy. Oh, you don't talk to me kind of a thing. But, if I don't put myself out there, someone that's struggling with anxiety or stress might not have that opportunity to really have that relieved. I could have made that difference, but I was too afraid of being pushy that I never put myself out there. So that's how I reframe it in my mind of like, people who are struggling that could benefit from my help might not get that help if I don't get over myself.
And that's so true because my first coach, this is a really important part of the story, actually. I remember at the time, the price tag for coaching seemed so exorbitant to me because I'd never invested in myself. I think it was like $550 a month for her group program. And I was like confronted as shit. I was like, I cannot pay that much for that money. Nowadays I pay my coach a lot of money. But then
I have like a ton of coaches too.
Yeah. So she called me one day and was like, hey, like I was doing like a get rich quick scheme because I was like, this will make me wealthy and then I can do whatever I want, which was not true. And she was like, what are you doing? Like she essentially like lovingly bullied me into the group program, which I think she sensed that I needed that. I don't think bullying people is a great sales tactic, but I think she could feel that I needed a little extra push. Yeah. And I will forever be grateful to her for that because it changed my life. And had she not gotten me on the phone and been like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't think I would have changed. And I don't know where I'd be now.
Yeah. And that's a good point because I realized, some people, you don't know where people are at. You don't know if they need that big kick in the ass to like get them in gear and actually confront themselves in their lives. And so, yeah, even if I do come off pushy, maybe some people need that push to like push them off the edge to have a different life. And so I still have the fear. It still like shows up. I'm like, oh, am I coming off too strong? I don't know. But it becomes easier with practice, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's a good lesson for a lot of people. It sounds like that's what you had to discover for yourself in many ways.
Yeah. And it's about generosity too. I mean, I assume that, I know you know this, Alice, and I assume you know this too, Donovan, sounds like you're like creating big things. It's like when we can show up in the world with from generosity, like whether we're releasing free things for our clients to use or for potential clients to use, or we're giving a sample session, or we're giving people a taste of our service or our product. You know, when we're showing up and from that spirit of generosity,
Yeah.
it's easier to accept that other people might be generous with us also.
Yeah.
And to trust ourselves in that process, or in the moments where we feel like maybe this person does need one more text or one more phone call. It's, you know, we can give ourselves permission to do it.
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of sales experience, but the one thing that has resonated with me from the experience I do have is there's no way of really knowing what people want or need without opening that conversation.
Yeah.
And short of, you know, it being a close friend or someone you already know intimately, there's no way for you to really suss that out just on seeing someone.
Yeah.
So to be able to see if the things that you have to provide are valuable, you have to open the conversation in some way. And there are a number of ways to do that. Some of them can be more or less aggressive, but like you will never be able to get anything in front of anyone if you don't at least ask and see what it is that they need.
Yeah, 100%. There's this great book called The Mom Test. Have you guys read that book?
Mm-mm.
It speaks to what you're talking about, Donovan, in a way, and it's also kind of like taking us in a different direction. It talks about how when we're selling our services, we often ask the wrong questions that have people give us wrong data versus these very open-ended questions like, how did you spend last weekend? Tell me everything. You know, you can learn more about your customer in that way than you would necessarily from asking them like, would you use this product? You know what I mean? So it's true. Like, we don't really know what people want or need, but we can gather that data in different ways, whether it's talking to them, offering them something, or asking them open-ended questions. But it all starts with a customer. It all starts with a need. That's what business is all about.
And I also know with one of the audiences that I built, I was just kind of making stuff, and some of it was resonating and some of it wasn't. And when I just took the time to ask, like, what is it that you people want to see from me? I got very clear answers as to like, these are the things that work and these are the things that we don't want from you. Like, okay, that helps clarify things quite a bit.
That's cool. I like that. I'm curious what they wanted.
In a past life, I taught people how to rap, focused mainly on the writing stuff. Also included a lot of my own stuff. They didn't want my stuff. They just want to know how to write better.
He's rap famous on YouTube, FYI. He has like over 10,000 followers. His rap channel. It's like 13,000 or something like that. Yeah, he's famous in the rap world.
That's impressive though. Seriously, 10,000 followers, you know, it's like incredibly, like the world is abundant and it's full of people that can like our stuff, but finding those 10,000 is, I mean, that's impressive, Donovan.
I'm surprised. And I also think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious that there's a group of people who are willing to listen to me about here's how you do it. And then when I do it, they're like, we don't want this. Please don't do it yourself. It's a little bit contradictory, but all right, fair enough.
Got to know your niche.
Exactly. Yeah, that's such an important aspect about business, is listening to the market feedback and then listening to what they want rather than just making assumptions about what they want, because you don't really know unless you ask. And you don't want to create a product and put all this time and energy into something that nobody wants. So it's important to gather that market data.
Yeah, and to test things like lean startup style, like what's the tiniest droplet I can give someone to see if they like the flavor, and then if they do, like Coca-Cola.
Absolutely. Great. Well, Megan, it's been such an honor and pleasure to have you on our show. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up today?
Well, the book is great. And part of my mission is to support entrepreneurs in gaining more community and support. And I run a virtual co-working community that was recently featured in the New York Times. And so if any of you want to check it out, you can head to my website, megantaylormorrison.com. And if you send me a message and say you heard about it here, I'll send you a coupon for a free month.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that's right now with the whole pandemic situation, a lot of people are working from home, you know, still having a sense of community in the face of all of that. It's really important. So working virtually, even if it's physically separate, you know, can make a difference.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for having me, you two. This was really fun.
Oh, good. Yes, it's been an honor. Yes, everyone go out, buy Megan's book, Dance Adventures on Amazon. Get it. It's going to be amazing. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and then go and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you get notified when the next video comes out. If you check out in the description below, go to my website where you can get my free fast and easy guide to stress relief. Thanks again for checking us out, and we'll see you next time.